Welcome to Let's Bring It In, the podcast where we dive into the stories that have shaped us as athletes, competitors, and teammates. I'm Coach Kathy Devaney, and here we're talking with athletes of all ages, coaches, parents, and even referees. Because in your world of sports and your competitive experience, it always boils down to stories. So grab a seat, lean in, and let's bring it in. All right, well, welcome back, everybody, to yet another fantastic episode of Let's Bring It In, a podcast where I, Coach Kathy Devaney, engage with student athletes, coaches, parents, mentors, anybody involved in the world of sport who has a story to share. It's my privilege and pleasure today to have some representatives of the Cal Poly women's rugby team. Let me go ahead and introduce them. We have Captain Lizzie Darst, and we have Erin Yarwood, and we have Alex Lewis. So welcome, you guys. Thanks for coming to chat with me.
Thanks for having us.
I appreciate it. Okay, we need to dive right in because it's three of you guys, and this sport is so full of excitement and potential storytelling. So, and I know even at your young age, you've already acquired a bunch of great stories to share. So let's dive in and tell me briefly. Let's start with you, Lizzie, as captain. You get to be the spokesperson for the for what Cal Poly Rugby is all about right now, where it's come from and where it is right now historically as a club.
Yeah, so the men's team has been around for a really long time. I don't exactly remember when, but the women's team is pretty recent. I think we were founded in 2017, and our coach right now, Zach, actually helped develop the women's team when he was president of the men's team. So that's kind of a fun fact.
That's cool. That's right. It is a family, right? Very much a family, isn't it? I mean, most sport is. You find that people who have passion for and play their sport at the next level tend to have kids who do that sport or a network of people that do that particular sport. But rugby is really very much integrated family. And the men and the women, that seems to be on the rise too. Okay, so now tell me about a little bit of each of you. We'll start over here with you, Alex. Tell us how you found your way to this sport that is incredibly unique for women right now.
I found the sport through a club fair. I was just walking around and got recruited by whoever was the loudest, and then
on the Cal Poly campus.
Yes,
right.
yes, and now I'm one of those people every year trying to be the loudest.
That's awesome. So what's your background in sport? What did you do before you became a rugby player?
I played flag football for 5 years, gymnastics for 10, tennis for 2, diving for 3.
Okay.
And then Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu, so I'd kind of done a lot.
That's incredible. So I'm guessing you're a pretty good all-around athlete.
I hope so.
Good body awareness. But were you encouraged by your family to try all those different things, or were you pretty self-motivated?
They always just asked, "Have you tried this? Do you want to?" And then I was always a curious kid, so then eventually I'd take them up on it and try it at least once. So I've tried out for almost every single sport, like swimming, water polo, soccer, and whichever one I liked the most is kind of what I stuck with.
And what's interesting to me about your background is you've had a healthy combination of individual sports and team sports, which we know, obviously, and I'm telling you if you don't know already, lends itself to a whole array of different kinds of stories and personal development. The things that you learn having to face off in a Muay Thai situation with a single opponent, the things you learn standing on a board, having to execute a required dive, the things you learn on a flag football team, all of those things offer different elements of personal development, which is one of the great things we celebrate about sport, right?
Yeah.
So where did you grow up? What high school did you go to?
Went to Long Beach Polytechnic High School.
That's a big school
Very
and a
big
big
school.
sports school.
Very big sports school.
Did you were you in the thick of things, or were you a standout in any of your sports? Any braggadocious moments for us?
Gymnastics I was pretty successful in. I was on the California national team, or the state team once. I was all-around champion 4 times for each level that I participated in, and then I switched to diving after quitting gymnastics because it got really tough with high school. So then
Right. So this was your club.
Yeah.
So at what age did you leave club gymnastics and do and dive?
I left gymnastics at 15,
At 15.
and then I joined dive at 16.
So your freshman, sophomore year,
Yes.
somewhere in there. Yeah. We get a lot of athletes, having been a coach for a long time, lots of athletes who are in the club gymnastics scenario, which is such an excellent foundation for any athletics, right? But then they either lend themselves to diving, or I try to pull them out to the track and do pole vault.
Yeah,
And,
they tried to recruit me for pole vault, but diving just called my name, so I stuck with that for 3 years, and I went to a pretty high level with that. I went to a couple different states, and then I even was in recruitment with Cal Poly for diving. for
So
my
it's,
senior year.
in high school, diving is 1 meter and 3 meter? or-
Yes, and platform.
And platform. Okay. Right on. Okay, so that's fun. I'd like to have you on as a singular guest eventually. Probably all of you guys, once I hear your full stories. Okay, Erin, your turn. Background in athletics in high school, and then how you found your way to the Cal Poly rugby team.
Yeah, I played soccer growing up. That was my main sport, and then
And you grew up in East Bay? Or
the Bay Area, Mountain View.
Mountain View,
Yeah,
okay.
so West Bay. And then once I got to high school, soccer got really competitive. The Bay Area is very competitive for soccer, and I switched over to field hockey. I think I started playing it my freshman year, but I switched over to it fully club and high school junior year.
Is field hockey, the league clubs, the club scenario up north, is it pretty stout? Lots of opportunity?
Yeah, there's a big club in San Jose, flag field hockey, that a lot of girls from all the high schools that compete against each other will play for. And then, yeah, there's a lot of competition there. We would go down to SoCal and NorCal for games.
Was there ever a time with field hockey, because we don't see it as much out here on the West Coast, but of course I follow trends across the country, and it's huge. That and lacrosse are huge in the Midwest to the East. Was there ever a time playing at that level of field hockey that you thought you might want to do that at the next level?
There was for a bit, but I was never, so into it that I wanted to do it in college. I had teammates that did that. But yeah, the biggest opportunity I had was we went down to Cal Cup, which is a really big field hockey tournament, my junior year of high school with my club team, and we competed there against some really high level teams. The East Coast is completely different for field hockey. I mean, they're just at another level in comparison to here.
What is field hockey anything like rugby?
No.
No. What's the big? You answered pretty quickly. What's the big difference?
Well, it's non-contact.
Right. Okay.
But it's a team sport, so there's that. I found it easy to transition to field hockey from soccer because it's 11 players, same positions. So a lot of the runs and movement and just field awareness is the same.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Cool.
And then I found rugby my sophomore year of college. An RA from my building freshman year was recruitment for Cal Poly Rugby, so I saw her at Club Fair also. And I went to the meeting, and I could just tell from the meeting that they were all such good friends and that they all enjoyed it so much. And then I stuck with it.
That's awesome. So what drew you then, it sounds like, was that sense of camaraderie.
Yeah.
Which we hope you find on any team. But there's something about rugby as a sport, it's just elemental to the game, you know. Okay, so that's what brought you guys to Cal Poly Rugby. Okay, your turn, Lizzie. What's your background and story? Because you started young. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm from Colorado, like near Breckenridge and Vail, and rugby was like a huge deal at my high school, which is interesting. It was like a town, or I guess multiple towns, but only one high school, and there's just like a big program, so like almost everybody that was like athletic played rugby, so it was kind of just funneled into that. And then I played all 4 years of high school and fell in love with the sport there. We played primarily sevens, but my senior year of high school, I hurt my back pretty bad. And I was like, going into summer, I was like, I'm done with rugby. Like, that's all. Like, I've had my time. Like, what a great sport. But, like, I'm done. And I didn't want to go to school for rugby, mainly because my family was very much wanting me to, like, go to school for school. And, like, I could play a sport, but I didn't want to go to school for my sport, I guess, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. No, it totally makes sense. We talk about that a lot.
And then over the summer, a bunch of my teammates from high school were going to play rugby at their school, either like at the D1 level or like a club level. And so I was like kind of feeling like a little bit of FOMO. I was like, maybe I want to play. And so I like reached out before the club fair, but then I found them again at the club fair and have like fell in love with the sport again.
That's awesome. That makes me really happy. Okay, so what are we studying?
Architecture.
Architecture. What student athlete is an arc major? And you are, Erin, what do you do?
Journalism.
Journalism, okay. Hey, Erin has a podcast. Find her on social. And what are you studying, Lizzie?
Business.
Okay, very good. Do you know what you want to do? What do you want to do?
I'm in accounting. I'm going to work for KPMG after college.
What's KPMG?
It's a Big Four accounting firm.
Okay, girlfriend knows what she wants. Okay, do you know what you want to do, Erin?
My track in journalism is public relations.
Okay.
So I want to work for a PR firm and then eventually in-house. I'm also really interested in working in women's sports and doing content for that.
There are, and I can connect you with a few things, not necessarily people yet, but there are some really wonderful things happening in the world of women's sports, which we hope continue. I hope that trajectory continues in our favor. And Alex, what do you think? Do you know? Do you want to be an architect?
Ideally, yes.
Yeah,
But
that's,
right now, my job is I'm a project coordinator for a company, and it's changing my whole perspective on.
oh, see, that's good to know. Because, yeah, it's a big part of what I do too when I talk to young student athletes about why they want to do their thing at the next level. You'll never hear me refer to them as anything other than student athlete, right? Because eventually, whatever shoes you wear, whatever cleats, you will be hanging them up. And my hope for young people is that they're always a student of life, because this pocket of your lives should be about discovery. And you come in with one idea, because in our system right now, you kind of have to declare what it is you think you want to be, and you're only 17 or 18 years old. So it's nice to know that you're opening yourselves up to things like podcasting and things like project management and those other opportunities that are available to you. Okay, so I want to move on and talk about, I want you to share with me, we talked about how you got recruited to do this sport. Share with me, you two, because you're relatively new to this, something about rugby that has shaped you, opened your eyes and shaped your experience so far as a student athlete at the collegiate level. Either tough training, great friends, what is it about having chosen to join this club team that has shaped your experience as a student at Cal Poly so far?
I think just having a commitment and having somewhere that I need to be 4-5 times a week is really good for me. I'm like someone that needs a lot of structure, and I need to have something to do and like somewhere to be. And I love having to go to practice. I think that if I didn't have to go to practice 3 nights a week, that I would go insane. So
It gives you some structure.
yeah.
But joyfully.
Yes, in a great way, yeah.
That's awesome. How about you, Alex?
I think I pretty much agree with that. I'm on a really tight schedule all the time, so it's the only time I leave for myself now. I'm in class and working constantly, so going to practice is my final outlet to see my friends and get a really hard workout in that might take me 3 hours by myself, but it gets done in an hour and a half or 2 hours.
It makes a difference, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Not just physically, but just knowing that carrot at the end of the day, where you're going to get to see your friends and you get to get a good workout and feel the privilege of exhaustion, right? So, as a captain, Lizzie, what role or what leadership qualities have you found you have to implement in your role as captain of this developing program at Cal Poly?
Yeah, I think I really try and just like lead by example. I always try and like uplift my teammates and like just keep the energy good. Even like when people mess up in games and stuff, like everyone is quick to be like, no worries, like all good, like pick yourself up, flush down the toilet, like it's over, like let's keep going. And I think that's something really special about rugby. Like our teammates never really get mad at each other on the field for mistakes. And also it's very, I think, different, but like we are all competing for starting spots, but we uplift each other and motivate each other, and we're like pushing each other to be the best that we can. So
That's awesome. Okay, so to that end, I have to say it's so interesting to me in my life, all the conversations I've had, all the stories, it's all stories, right? The thing that continues to come up with people who play at a high level is this, and when you really start to talk to them, is what you just said, is that it's the concept of the good teams, the good memories, they come from an ability to recognize that you're going to make mistakes, that you're going to fail, that you're going to lose, right? Even if you're on a legacy championship program, and the ability to be around a team or a culture that helps you quickly get over that. We as athletes tend to be very hard on ourselves, particularly women, and it's exciting for me that your generation is less. I think things are harder for you guys in many ways, but the freedom to just express yourself as a powerful, athletic woman is a wonderful thing that I'm seeing with this generation. It makes me really affirmed that things are going to be okay moving forward. Let me ask you guys individually right now. Share a success story or a moment where you saw really a surge in personal growth or development. Alex, you ready to answer that one? It doesn't have to be rugby. It can be something you experience with gymnastics or diving. Erin, do you have one ready? An aha moment? Share with us.
Last year I got to learn how to play scrum half, which was a new position for me.
Okay, so share with our listeners what scrum half is all about. And then I wanted to ask you, too, share a little bit about 7s versus 15s. I want to hear about that. But
Scrum half is the number 9 on the field in 15s, and they're kind of the person that links the backs and the forwards. So they're responsible for getting the ball out of all the rucks and the scrum and feeding it to the backs or the forwards for the next play. So they're the person running, chasing the ball around the field.
So what was it about? First of all, who was implemental in teaching you what you needed to know to play that position?
Our president last year, Ellie, she played scrum half, and she was definitely like my biggest mentor for learning that position. She's really talented at scrum half, and last year it was a new position for me, and I was playing it on B side, and getting to play that position in changing from wing to that, I just loved scrum half so much more.
What's the difference? I mean, what was the thing that you loved?
Getting the ball more.
More ball handling?
Wing
Okay.
is, the last person on the edge of the field. They're the person that gets to run it down, if it gets to them, though. So that doesn't always happen.
I mean, I've watched a lot of rugby. That's typically the goal, right? And one of the things I love most about this sport is like soccer, there's so much fluidity on the field as to whether or not the guy with the ball is going to put his shoulders down and charge up the middle or work on a pass out situation to the wing. So, and that's, you just don't ever know, right?
Mm-hmm.
You never know and I love to watch the outside players when the action's happening in the middle of the field, if what kind of signals they may be giving to let the ball carrier know they're there or they're ready. So the guy on the wing is obviously, the gal on the wing is the one with the wheels, right? Is that the idea? They're the ones that are really fast. So making the switch from that to scrum half, what did you have to work on most to be able to make that change?
Definitely my passing improved a lot learning that, because wing, you're catching and running, and sure you're passing, but scrum half, that's like the whole
So
bit.
what's the key to passing well? Is it the turn of the wrist? Is it the...
I think it's finishing your arms.
There you go.
If your follow throughs, and with scrum half, there's a step that you take after the ball leaves your hands, and when I'm remembering to take that step, my passes are a lot better.
That's awesome. I love this because, I do want to talk like this through this interview, because I think the sport is on the rise, obviously, and there are more people interested in it. And the few conversations I've had since the Olympics last year and the women got the bronze, it is a challenging sport to follow. So, Alex, we were talking outside earlier, talk about what it's taken for you to learn the nuances and the rules of this sport.
Yeah, I joined on my first day. We did like a round of touch just to give you the idea, and I just went to tackle someone, but they didn't have the ball. I was just hungry, and they got up and they patted me on the back and they go, good try, but that's not. So then I went home, and I think I was in studio. I remember because I transferred in from a different thing. I was behind on my work, and I was in studio for almost 3 days straight, and all that was on the projector was rugby. So my whole class ended up having to basically learn it with me. So now a couple of my friends will go to games and they remember it, but it was just from watching. I think it was the World Cup at the time. It might have been. I was watching men's and women's just constantly, and that's all I would do until I would figure out the calls, and then
You were studying it.
yeah, and then on the field I was too fixed on positions, and then I kind of had the aha moment where I was like, oh, maybe in the game they're not thinking about it as so structured. It's just it's meant to be a mess. Like rugby is.
Yes.
It's organized chaos.
It's
but-
organized chaos. There you go. I love that. Okay, so over to you, Lizzie. You came into your situation at Cal Poly with a good few years of experience. So what have you found at this level? Were you prepared for it? What changes or what's different about this level of play, and what are you trying to bring to your time as an athlete on the team and as a leader on the team?
Yeah, my high school program was pretty tough, and it kind of took away my love for rugby. I was very anxious and playing, it just was very competitive. So coming to Cal Poly was a little bit nervous about that, but it was a completely 180. So I think the coaching really helped I don't know, just like learn, like I'm learning still. Like there's so much you can learn about rugby, and like our coach Cap is a ref, so he like every question I can possibly have, he knows the answer to. And I play fly half, which is next to Erin, so Erin's the one that feeds the ball to me. And I'm like a pretty big voice on the field, I would say, like big leader on the field, trying to like get everything organized, get the plays organized, figure out where the ball's gonna go. And so I think I've just been like developing that and like learning from my teammates of like what works, what doesn't, and like getting their input too. Like I don't want to be calling plays that they don't think work and things like that.
I love it. Okay, so it's one of our greatest assets as women is our comfort level with communication. And this is just true always. It's an asset to be openly comfortable communicating on the field, and certainly having a coach who promotes that and celebrates that. So we're talking about Coach Paul Capilano, who gets his shout. Love you, Cappy. And Emily, and they've been around forever, just a true asset to athletics on the Central Coast. And when I met up with Paul last week and he made this connection happen, I just was marveling at, he and I, those of us who've been around for so long and are still having an influence. So it's really exciting to hear that he's influencing you guys in such a positive way. To that end, let's talk about coaching. Because tell me a little bit about who your coaching staff is, where they come from, what their background is, and what you feel there is attributes that are contributing to the success of this program.
Yeah, I can start. Our head coach is Coach Zach Markow, and he actually started or helped start the women's team at Cal Poly when he was president of the men's team. So, yeah, he played all through college on the men's team, and then helped founded the women's team, and then once he graduated became the coach, which is really cool. And I think like one of his biggest attributes is like he always like reminds us like family comes first and then school and then rugby, so people don't feel too bad like if they need to take a day off to like work on school, get caught up, like study for a test, but it also just like sets your priorities straight, because I think sometimes at a high level like sports can feel like you have to put them above everything, and so like he's always reminding us that and like always there for us like on and off the field, I would say.
That's awesome. How about you guys? How big is the staff? How many coaches are there?
Cap and Zach, so 2.
Cap and Zach. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So and how many girls are on the squad? How many women?
There's 29 of us right now that can play.
Like, usually we sit I think around 35, 40.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a good program. And you guys explain a little bit about how you're a club and you're not in NCAA sanctions. Tell us a little bit about how your league works, who you play, how you move on to conferences or championships or things like that. What does it look like?
Yeah, so we play, I don't actually know what our league is called, but we're D2 club right now.
WCRC.
The WCRC.
West Coast Rugby something.
Conference,
There
right?
you go.
Yeah.
Right, makes sense. West Coast Rugby Conference.
Yeah, so we just play like in like normal league play during winter, and then based on how we rank out of that leads to playoffs, and then if we win playoffs we go to regionals, and if we win regionals we go to nationals for 15.
And do those locations change every year?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what places have you gotten to go to so far?
Texas.
Yeah, we've gone to Dallas and Houston.
Dallas and Houston.
And
Okay.
then we've gone to SAC to play in playoffs last year, and then Irvine for regionals.
For regionals, yeah.
Awesome.
And
Yeah.
then this year, nationals for 15s is in Stanford, and regionals at Stanford, and then nationals for 7s, which we've already qualified for, is in Indiana.
Okay. Ooh, we're in Indiana.
Indianapolis.
Indianapolis.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just thinking about these places where they have, lots of big space for big fields and that sort of thing. So that's awesome. Okay, so are you excited about going to Indianapolis?
Yeah, well, we don't know our set team yet, so we don't know for
Okay.
sure who's
So-
going.
Okay, so yeah, you got about 35 on the squad. So how do you choose for 7s?
15 of us go.
15 get to
15
go.
go, okay.
And our coach is very big on, like, you don't have a permanent spot, which I think is really good. Like, everyone's always working for their spot and, like, trying to get better, which I think
Have you guys run into any issues with foul play, poor sportsmanship? Okay, that happens?
A bit.
Yeah.
Never on our team.
Not from us.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
We're
So,
really
but you guys are good? You're
sportsmen,
cohesive?
Yeah,
Okay, that's good.
we are a team that never bites at each other, and we've
Or
definitely
others.
seen others,
Yeah.
and Cap and Zach are very big on that. They always emphasize before we play teams that we know are a little chippy. That we are not gonna, respond to that or do anything like that.
So tell me a story about another team where you were going like, what?
I don't even know.
3 weeks ago.
Go for it. I wanna
Biggest
hear it.
opponent, no name drops, but
You know who you are.
exactly what they did. Just sometimes it comes down to the coaching too. There's been a lot of change in staff for women's teams recently, so our culture comes from our coach. I mean, if Zach didn't always tell us, like, you stand straight, stay silent, like, this is a respectable game, I might get a little angry and say something, but I always know that I'm not representing me, I'm representing the team. And I think the change in coaching for other teams has brought a new culture for them. So some schools recently have been cursing in scrums or, like, targeting hair, pulling, or some girls will, the play's out of the way and you're in the corner and the ref's looking the other way and they'll sock you in the face, or total new grounds that I was not used to first year that is happening a little bit.
How did you respond?
I ran away. The play was over there and I have something better to do.
But was the temptation though to strike back?
No.
Not? Okay,
It's
good.
not, I don't think it's in me. I don't know if anyone else would, but
It's one of the things we were talking about before we started the interview. One of the things I love most about this sport is that when you watch it, the clock doesn't stop. I love that. Like soccer, the clock just goes. And there is a sense, both with the men and the women, just play on.
yeah.
You play on. You do not. I had a friend was a guest recently who's a high-level NCAA soccer ref, and boy, does she have stories. And she, specifically talked to me after the show about a situation where she had to send someone off for language, right? And she says, it's not a big woman. She's a small little bit of a thing, but you see it all the time about the athletes who are entitled and push the rules, and you don't see that so much in rugby. So, but again, with the women, I have to say, women tend to try to posture a little bit to prove themselves. So that's why I asked about that. Do you see that happening at all, and how do you respond to it? It's really affirming to me because I love Cappy so much, and I'm a Cal Poly fan, that you guys have cultivated a culture that doesn't tolerate that. Because that's really what it's all about. It's supposed to be about the game, right? Carry on with the game and all that. Okay, see, jumping ahead. Somebody tell me a little bit about what you find so unique about this sport. What is it that you know is unique about this sport compared to the other sports that you've participated in?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Like, I've been a part of a lot of different teams, and with rugby, just every rugby team you're on, everybody's, like, pretty close. Like, it's just something about the sport. I think, like, everyone supports each other, uplifts each other, whereas, like, in other sports, like, just the general culture of the sport is maybe a little bit more toxic. But for rugby, I've never really experienced that. Like, I don't know.
When I was becoming introduced to rugby at a men's level here in San Luis Obispo 40 years ago, and that's where Cappy was part of all that. But I learned early, not to promote this, but there are two winners on the day: those who win on the pitch and those who win the party. So as a girlfriend of a rugby player, I was always very keen to help set up a great barbecue. We always did Santa Maria style barbecue here on the Central Coast, so teams loved to come here to play our teams because we always threw a really great throwdown after the fact. And we can stop it right there. We don't have to talk about the other things that happen at rugby parties. Although I did mention to you guys when my son was younger and we were developing the youth program here on the Central Coast, we did the equivalent of that when they would play on Saturdays. First of all, that concept that if the other team's short players, you throw us a jersey and we'll give you one of our players, is about the game. It's about playing the game, right? And Cappy would be a ref, or Reggie would be a ref at the center, teaching the athletes, both boys and girls. But then whenever the game was over, both teams would come together at the sideline and the coaches would talk, and then we'd have the kids talk. It was the equivalent of the party. Right? It was the celebration of the fact that this is a fraternity. It's a game that's a wonderful game to play, and that at the end of it, we shake hands and we walk away from it. And you kind of see that. I don't see much crap at the higher levels. I'm watching Six Nations just this last few months and following my fabulous Irish team. And even when they lost to Italy, that was big loss for us and humiliating, but I love the way that rugby players carry themselves with pride and passion for the game, right, for the game itself. Although, let's segue because on an international level, it is on the rise, and we're seeing more and better coverage of the sport. Do you guys have aspirations to play at a higher level? And if so, who do you follow, and what are your dreams, and what do you see happening with women's sports and the sport of rugby?
I can say that I definitely want to play after graduating. I went to the Grizzly training camp too, and that's
Where was that?
that was in where I don't know where I went.
That's
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
Was it San Jose?
It was up in the Bay.
It was
Bay Area?
Yeah, Morgan Hills. I went there just to see what it was like, and I want to go a little further, and I just want to see how far I can go. I
Great.
felt like I kind of missed a couple athletic opportunities to really pursue it, so I think I'm still hungry for it, and especially with work, I feel like rugby would be my perfect balance for it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. How about you, Erin? What are you thinking?
Well, I'm graduating in the spring, and I've been on teams my whole life, so I think that I do want to play rugby after college, not in like any professional level, just in like a local club level.
Recreational club.
Yeah.
Yeah. It lends itself to that. You know, it is. It'll be easy and fun to find. How about you? Do you have any dreams, Lizzie?
I don't think so. I'm dealing with some injuries right now, just trying to make it through the season. But I also, again, have said I wasn't going to play rugby before, and here I am.
So let's talk about that injury-wise. What have you guys found compared? You've all done other sports. How do you keep yourself healthy? And what is your take on the injury level playing this contact sport?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's some concussions, but I think that some injuries are pretty preventable. Like your neck strength is really important in rugby to like keep your head from like hitting the ground. We do get like some ACL tears and stuff like that. Is pretty average.
The knees. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you guys is it part of your regimen to do any strength training? You're in the weight room?
Yeah.
And who designs your strength workouts?
We go to a gym called Headstrong.
Headstrong, with
and
Robbie
they
McLaughlin.
format that, and then also for a lot of our practices, we have extra add-ins with some band work and other
That's good,
stretching and
yeah.
stuff.
It's really all about prevention, right? And as women, you guys are older now, but you developmentally, we see a lot of, like I used to say, I had reconstructive knee surgery in the middle of my college career. I had an ACL tear, and I was the first on the Central Coast, the first patella reconstruction. So I was like the poster child for this first surgery that worked, and NCAA gave me a hardship year, and I came back and had a very successful last year as a thrower at Cal Poly, but I would have joked ever since that we would say knees are God's mistake, but they're not really. It's what we do with them that we probably shouldn't be doing with them, like playing these games and tackling each other. So that's, so you guys were talking about how what's the bulk of injuries that you guys are dealing with on the squad right now? Is it concussions or knees?
It's knees right now. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so moving on. There we were, overcoming injuries, setbacks, and self-doubt. The future of women's rugby, Olympic aspirations, we talked about that. What was I going to say here? Let's shift to words of wisdom for aspiring student athletes. But before we go there, talk to me briefly about how you have balanced being a student athlete, your academics and your athletics, because we know that Cal Poly is a rigorous academic institution. So were you ready when you came to Cal Poly? Were you ready to take on the time management skills that were required to be a student athlete? And what have you had to shape and develop to be successful at your career as a Cal Poly student athlete?
I think similar to what Erin was saying earlier, I try and tell people this all the time. Obviously, schoolwork comes first and you got to get through it. But at the same time, rugby's such an outlet. And something even if I don't want to go to practice, make myself go, and I come out of it smiling, happy. 2 hours of just physical exercise gets you in a whole different headspace, and it's the type of break you need from rigorous school. And so I think having exercise, whether it's a sport or going to the gym, but making time for that every day is crucial to doing well in school for me.
And you are supported in doing that by your coaches. Yeah, that's really assuring. That's awesome. How about you, Erin?
I I don't have too much trouble balancing stuff. I think my major isn't too rigorous in comparison to others. I do think that if I joined freshman year, I would have had a lot harder time sticking with it. Just transitioning to college was a little harder for me than other people. And I think if I had tried to join freshman year and had that pressure to walk over to the lower fields 3 times a night and 3 times a week, I don't think I would have stuck to it. So I'm really grateful that I found it my second year.
That's a trek from the dorms to the lower
Yeah.
field. Yeah. So that's good. That's good counsel. I appreciate you being direct about that. Alex, what about you?
Sometimes it's a big struggle. It's way easier than high school because it feels like I'm allowed to balance it now. In high school, I was 2-sport athlete pretty consistently, trying to go to college for my sport. So I was working out 7 days a week and in 6 APs. Like, I was barely sleeping, and then I thought college was finally freedom, and then I stumbled to the tent. But I think even as rigorous as architecture is right now, and I'm in my hardest year, there's always time is what I'm finding, is there's little minutes in the day that I don't use that it's kind of making me realize like how much I can appreciate my time, which I don't think I had that as a kid.
I think that, and I want to talk briefly too about the role that your journeys, which was just yesterday, even for you, getting ready to graduate, choosing whether or not to go to college, and then how to get into the college of your choosing. Was Cal Poly your first choice? What was your first choice?
Anything except Cal Poly.
Really?
I did not think Cal Poly was an option. I kind of applied as a back burner because I had looked at it for dive, and the staff was great. It was nothing with them. It was just me being a teenager. I wasn't super interested. I was picturing New York or like I'm a big city person.
Okay.
And then I came here, and I don't think I would survive anywhere else. I think this is the best. I think it was meant to be the way it was because this is the most beautiful place I could be right now.
That is about the most wonderful thing you could say to the people I want to have hear this, which is, you had this idea in your head, you landed here, and it turned into something that you did not expect. That's really cool. So you imagined yourself going far away to a bigger city, because that's one of the first things I ask recruits is, do you see yourself in the mountains, the ocean, big city, small city, huge stadium school, or a small, 25-to-1 ratio school, that sort of thing. So
yeah, I wanted huge. I wanted all the like dazzling lights. I wanted chaos. I just wanted to get out.
Instead, you found rugby, another form of chaos.
Yeah.
So where else did you apply?
I applied to all the state schools. I was applying to Washington, and I had an application in New York, and then I started to really switch my mind as soon as like the world started to become real.
Right.
And I pulled out from applying to a lot of them, and then I was in recruit for diving for a lot of other like East Coast and I guess Midwest schools that I was looking at.
Of course, we're grateful that you didn't choose dive at Poly at this point, right? Because of what those young folks are going through. I know I got to be on. Dylan Foreman was here just earlier, and he's the KSBY guy, and we spoke to that last week. Yeah, lots of big changes in the NCAA right now. So, okay, so Erin, where else did you apply?
Ooh, I applied to like 12 schools, and I also wanted to go to a city and go to a big school. I was really set on University of Washington, and I got in there, and then I just didn't want to do the rain or the out-of-state tuition. And then I also really wanted to go to UCSB, which I didn't get into, and I'm so glad I didn't get in there because I would have gone there, and I wouldn't have liked it as much as I do here. I know that for sure because I've gone to UCSB and I've spent a lot of time there since going here. And I just think SLO is so beautiful and amazing, and I love it here so much.
So, and how about you, Lizzie?
I really wanted to go out of state, but like we have CU Boulder, which is like a really good school, really good business school in state. And so my parents were like, if you're going to go out of state, you need to go to like a better school than like what you could get in state. And so I applied to Cal Poly, honestly, as a little bit of a joke. My mom's friend told me that I wouldn't get in, and my mom was like, you need to apply, like you're going to get in. And then we toured it because it was warm here and cold in Colorado, and I like fell in love with the campus. And so I just like so excited.
So before we get off topic about that pocket, when you were juniors and seniors, what role, and keep it respectable and short and sweet, did mom and dad play in your journey to San Luis Obispo, and how do they feel about you playing rugby? Alex?
They're my biggest advocates.
Are they?
Yeah, I don't think I would have really taken Cal Poly up or even tried rugby. I only went to the first practice because I called my mom. I was too nervous to go, and I was sitting there with shoes on, and I was like, I don't think I'm going to do it. And she goes, you better to go, just try it once. She goes, go try every sport. And then my parents have always kind of been the pusher for it, so if it wasn't for them, I don't think I would be as happy as I am now.
That's awesome. Have they come to some games?
Yeah, my mom's actually the team mom.
Oh, I love it. Okay, I want to ask about that in a minute, but go ahead, Erin. What role did your family play in your decision to choose Cal Poly, and then how did they feel about you playing rugby?
They were really supportive about the whole college process, and they were really trying to make sure I knew that wherever I wanted to go, if I got in there, that they were going to make it happen. But I'm sure they were happy that I picked somewhere close enough that they can come visit, and it's not too bad of a drive. And as for rugby, my mom's Australian, so she grew up playing like Aussie footy and rugby, and she always wanted me to play rugby when I was a kid. But there's just not that many programs, and I didn't want to do it. So she was very happy when I signed up for rugby, and most of our games are in the Bay, so they get to come to a lot of them.
That is so fantastic.
Yeah.
She's got to be thrilled.
Yeah.
That's great. How about you, Lizzie, your folks?
Yeah, my parents were also super supportive. They I remember when I got my acceptance letter, it was 10 p.m. and I just started screaming, and my mom was like, you have to go there, you haven't been this excited about any other acceptance letter, this is the one. And then in terms of rugby, my dad kind of laughed when I told him I was going to play rugby starting in high school. I was like a twig. I'd gone through a growth spurt. He was like, just wait till they start tackling, okay, you can try it, but you're going to hate it. And I came home one day and I was like, we tackled today and it was so much fun. And ever since then, they've been super supportive.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really, it is just that it just brings a smile to know that you guys are playing and that you're helping build the sport out for women. So, what words of wisdom, I'll keep it simple, would you give, because it was just yesterday for you guys, what words of wisdom would you guys give to high school student athletes who are thinking they might want to do their sport at the next level? I want you to focus your answer on obviously the stories that you've accumulated as high school student athletes and the surprising, wonderful stories that have happened since you made this decision to come here and do this sport. Does that make sense as far as the question goes? Alex, are you ready to answer?
Yeah, I would say if you love your sport enough to entertain it, don't be so closed-minded on the expectations you have to do it, because I think I was very narrow-minded as a teenager, and had I gone to or entertained the other D3 schools and toured them and been a little more serious and not so teenagery, I think I would have been able to experience a lot more and keep the love of my sport. I ended up burning out pretty consistently just because I kept pushing for the furthest, but life kind of keeps going on. So.
Very cool. Okay, how about you, Erin?
I would say don't lose sight of what you enjoy about your sport. I think athletes get really wrapped up in improving and doing better and pushing themselves, but if you're not enjoying it anymore, then that's not the point.
Yeah, I've seen my share of athletes over the years who at the high level who are so myopically focused on improving, right, that they lose sight of their absolute joy that made them stick with it this long to get to this level. So it's really important to surround yourself with people, coaches, teammates, friends, parents, family, fans, who support the balance that keeps you going, right? How about you, Lizzie?
Yeah, I think a lot of times when you're recruiting for a sport, at least what I've seen from the outside is everyone's always oh, if you don't go D1, what's the point kind of sometimes.
That's a good point.
And I think just being aware there's sports that you can do at a club level that are still competitive, you still are going to have hard practices and it's still going to be worthwhile. But also I think the coaches make the hugest difference, and don't just pick a program because it is doing well. Really get to know the coaches, because that has made all the difference for our program.
And so I talk a lot about your why, about locking into not where you want to go, right? But there's a lot of focus on that with young people right now. All those hard-earned varsity letters and AP courses and GPAs and test scores and all those things that add pressure to where you guys just were, right? And where young people are right now. And then to get away from all of that, all those stats, and think about, why am I doing this? Am I doing it because I really love my sport, or am I doing it because I need to get scholarships to pay for college? And when you know your why, it helps you plot your course, right? And we're seeing so many shifts and changes in the NCAA right now. It's really hard to keep up. But I keep coming back to, when I talk with clients and their parents, I talk to them about, stay focused on your why. Why are you doing this? And that will keep your ship going the right direction. So what shall we, well, first of all, goals for Cal Poly Rugby and your role as an athlete on the team, and then how do we follow and support you guys?
Goal, A side, B side, C side.
What does that mean?
Get more people on the pitch.
Okay.
I think there's plenty of women out there that want to do the sport, and it just hasn't had the opportunity. Had I learned about rugby sooner, I definitely would have done it as a kid. So more, I think, youth programs too, but just making it more available to people's knowledge would help a lot, because most people didn't know even existed until we were out there with banners and signs and screaming. And yeah.
Do you see people in your classes, women in your classes, where you're like, I should talk her into coming out on the team?
Yeah, that happened. I'll walk up, I'll see girls who are tall, and I'll stop like, hey, have you ever played a sport? And then that's how some people have been recruited, is just walking by. And then
One of my favorite anecdotes that I've been telling for years is a similar story about a friend of mine whose daughter was a very talented basketball player here locally, and she had to make the decision as a college-bound student athlete. She got into her dream school, which was Santa Clara, but she got offered a D2 spot to play at Cal State LA, or Cal State Long Beach, I can't remember which. So she had to decide. I got into this school academically, but I could play basketball over here. She chose the academics, and she went to Santa Clara. And on my nudge with the mom, I said, you're a talented basketball player. You should go try out for the team. You should walk on, try out, like your mom said. You will not know unless you go. So she did. She went into the tryouts for Santa Clara women's basketball, and she got her clock cleaned. She knew after a couple training sessions, I'm out of my league. So as she's leaving the tryout, she's on her way back to the locker room, and a gal stops her and says, have you ever rowed before? Have you ever done crew? And she said, no. I said, well, you ought to come to a practice. So she ended up crewing for 4 years for Santa Clara, and had the most incredible experience, made her friendships, learned a whole new sport, traveled, brought friends home for Thanksgiving, the whole thing, the thing that is all the things, which you guys know already, contributes to a really rich and full life. Because I'm telling you right now, you get to be my age, you're going to tell stories just like you're telling me right here, and that's the goodness of life. That's what it's all about. So who are we left with? Somebody was going to answer.
Oh, I was going to say that I want us to keep getting better and keep winning. I mean, we won D2 Nationals last year, and we're headed to Nationals again, hopefully for 15s too. And next year we're going to go up to D1, which is a big change, but it's something that I totally believe that the team is going to be able to do and do well. And I just want the program to stay as strong and steady as it is right now.
Fantastic. And keep developing, keep growing. Pulling in some talent, people who don't even know how much fun and how good they could be at this sport. Lizzie, what are your hopes for Cal Poly? And then each of you give me a little something we can do to follow and support.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, like going into D1. I think just staying positive, because obviously it's easy to love your sport when you're undefeated, like you're winning everything. And then when we go to D1, we're going to face challenges, and I think that it brings its own sort of fun. So just like keeping the team like together and keeping that culture alive. Mm-hmm. And then as for following us, you want to...
Yeah, I'm the promotions officer. So
very good.
I'm in charge of all the social media and the website. So we have Instagram, TikTok. Our Instagram is Cal Poly W Rugby. And there's a website too where we keep all of our scores and our schedules. If you just look up Cal Poly Rugby, you'll find the men's and the women's site.
Excellent. Okay, so they're easy to find. Mm-hmm. All right, we're going to give you guys a follow and definitely follow you. Any last parting thoughts to share with the young audience and parents of student athletes and what stories do you hope to develop and share in your time at Cal Poly? A championship, maybe?
Championship.
Yeah, back to back would be pretty cool.
Yeah, back to back would be pretty awesome.
That'd be so exciting.
I think just for people like out there, like don't be afraid to try something new in college, whether that's like a new sport or a new club. Like now's your time. You don't want to regret it later.
Awesome. You guys?
I would say be nice to your parents. They're trying to help.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh my gosh,
They're
I
really
love
trying
it.
their best. Like, even if it's a little heated sometimes, they just care so much, and I wish I knew that when I was in this process and not such a teenager.
Yeah, you know, and that's normal. That's natural. Huge part of what I do, right? Did this 4 times with my own, and you come to a place as a parent. Just had this conversation with my son again. It's like we're out here going. The mantra is, how can I help? How can I help? You are on your way to living independently, being full-grown adults doing your thing, but parents never stop wanting to help. So it's a constant challenge to find the right wording and the right timing to be able to be supportive of you guys. So I'm so grateful that you guys came on to chat. So what are our dates? What are we looking for? Because you got to come back afterward. You have you're in Indianapolis in when?
Indianapolis, May 2nd and 3rd.
Okay.
And then Stanford, April 19th and 20th.
Okay, so if I catch you guys mid-May before your finals,
18th,
you'll come and tell us how it went?
Yeah.
Stanford is in April and Indy is in May.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm writing this down. So I'll touch base with you, but we'll get everybody to follow you. And I sure wish there was someplace we could watch live or watch.
Yeah,
recorded.
actually there is.
There is there.
On the Rugby Network, a lot of times
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
live streamed there.
Yeah, the nationals will be on the Rugby Network, and then we live stream our games sometimes. If we're live streaming, the link will be on our Instagram the day of the game.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Good. So just question to follow you in social. Absolutely fantastic. Well, once again, Cal Poly Women's Rugby. Give them a follow, give them a shout. And we'll see you for our next episode of Let's Bring It In. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.